Welcome back. We'll now link up with Eshoma Moimodu and TJ Swadewe in our Abuja studio for the conversation. Good morning. How is Abuja this morning?
Good morning, Etoma, and good morning, Ibrahim.
Good morning, guys.
Nice
How are
to
you?
see you today.
Okay.
Very well, thank you.
I'm sure we woke up to very interesting stuff. Well, we actually went to bed with very, interesting declarations.
Went to bed, exactly.
Yeah, we went to bed.
Has been dominating, conversations across the nation and beyond.
Yeah.
I think that was a needed intervention.
Well,
Yes,
I will just wait to see the reaction. Hopefully they are positive.
No, I can't wait to hear the conversations you guys have planned for us.
Exactly. Now let's go to what we have for you. Thanks for joining us on this segment of the program from Abuja. Now, barely 13 hours ago, President Bola Tinubu declared a state of emergency in Rivers following the protracted political crisis in the state. Now, this came hours after the president met with service chiefs and the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu, in Abuja. Now, the president made the proclamation during a nationwide broadcast suspending Governor Sim Fubara, his deputy Ngozi Odu, and all members of the House of Assembly for 6 months. The president swiftly nominated Vice Admiral Ibokete Ibas, retired, as a military administrator to take charge of the affairs of the state for the first 6 months. While making the proclamation, President Tinubu says he is relying on Section 305 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, which interprets a state of emergency as a situation of national danger, disaster, or terrorist attacks in which a government suspends normal constitutional procedures to regain control.
For about 2 months, there seemed to be no end in sight in the protracted feud and power tussle between the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, and his estranged ex-political godson, Fubara, over the control of the political structure in the oil-rich Rivers State. Pipelines have reportedly exploded in the state as the political tension heightened, with civil servants threatening mass protests against the Martin Amewele group in the House of Assembly loyal to Wike. Tinubu said, and I quote, "The latest security report made available to me shows that between yesterday and today, there have been disturbing incidents of vandalization of pipelines by some militants without the governor taking any action to curtail them. I have, of course, given stern order to the security agencies to ensure safety of lives of the good people of Rivers State and the oil pipelines," end of quote. And to walk us through this latest development, put into perspective what the declaration portends for the people of Rivers State, we have joining us live via Zoom from Port Harcourt, a Niger Delta activist, Ankyo Briggs. Thank you for joining us this morning once again.
Thank you for having me.
And we also have live in the studio with us the publisher of Beam, who is also a media strategist, Obiaruku Undukwe. It's good to have you on the program this morning. Thank you for joining us. Yeah. Well, we'll start with you, Ankyo Briggs. Do you view this state of emergency as a situation where neither side emerges victorious? And what further actions would you expect from President Tinubu to take beyond declaring this state of emergency?
First of all, before we go any further, I want us to understand that the people of River State feel victimized by what has gone on in the past and since 2023, around October, and still feel victimized by the state of emergency that has been declared. To start off to say that this state of emergency is being declared because pipelines have been vandalized or blown up, and that the governor had not done anything to stop it. I think it's expecting too much from the governor. The governor's office is in Port Harcourt. The first pipeline that was blown up was done in Ogoni. We don't know what time of the day or when it was. The second one was done far away from Port Harcourt. And then the third one was done far, far, far away in another state. So I think it is unfair to blame the blow-up directly on the governor of Rivers State and use that as the number one in the series of accusations against the governor, and if you like, against the people of Rivers State. This disaster, political disaster, as I have called it, and even madness, as I have called it, started in 2023. And Fubara, by a very long shot, is not the only player. And he definitely did not start Rivers State on this downward spiral that the people of Rivers State have endured in the past 1.5, going to 2 years now.
Okay, let's quickly situate some things in here. The suspended governor constitutionally is the chief security officer of Rivers State. So even if the pipeline explosion happened far away from where he is still the chief security officer. We can't take that responsibility away from him. And also the fact remains that I don't think the president is directly blaming, but I think there are various players, whether elders, whether religious leaders, and whoever is involved in this rivers crisis, because they have been polarized and they seem to have lost the capacity. People say they seem to have lost the capacity to mediate. So at the end of the day, if nobody can mediate because they have taken sides, what would we expect the president to do in that circumstance?
I don't understand really what anybody means by someone has taken sides. We definitely have two sides. We have a side that is headed by the minister of the Federal Capital Territory. And then we have the governor of Rivers State. The people, majority of the people, should and do owe, if you like, their support. Do give their support to the governor. If we don't give if we don't give him our support, then how then is he the governor of Rivers State? We're talking about a situation where we seem to have two governors, two sides, two different groups at all time, one in favor of the past governor and another in favor of the present governor. Now, why does the past governor need to have supporters in the governance of Rivers State? I think that's a very key and critical question. The issue of godfatherism then comes into it. And for me as a person, and for a lot of people in Rivers State, godfatherism is strange to us. It's not, it may have been happening in other states like Lagos and places like that. But godfatherism is not constitutional. We're talking about a country that is supposed to be democratic and supposed to be constitutional. So when someone says he's not loyal, he made promises, and he's not keeping to those promises, what promises do we expect a sitting governor who has sworn on the Constitution of Nigeria? What sort of promises, dark promises, is a governor supposed to uphold after he has sworn to the Constitution of Nigeria on behalf of the people of Rivers State? So really and truly, the issues of Rivers State is about a few group of people insisting that it must be their way and no other way. Fubara was, and remains the governor of Rivers State. So now, let us ask, who and what is the problem in Rivers State? We first waded in. When people say, are there no elders? Are there no... We shouldn't even find ourselves in a situation where we are now calling in people that are not in government to come
Madam
and be
Briggs,
arbitrators.
Madam Briggs, I would like to also chip in that you saying godfatherism is strange in Rivers State is debatable, but we'll come back to you. I'll come to you, Madam Obi. A state of emergency has already been declared in Rivers State. Did you see this coming?
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I saw it coming, but not so soon anyway, because I was hoping that maybe the president would have had another session with these the major players, you know, on both sides, then maybe accompanied by the elders, and then maybe the CSOs and the security apparatus that we have, the security chiefs, you know. But since he took that, for how long would the president have waited, actually? Yes, because, I mean, this thing continued unabated. We are talking about elders. We are talking about, there are security reports. Even before the president took that decision, there was a security meeting, high-level security meeting. Reports came in. And of course, you don't blame him. Based on what he was presented with, he had to take that decision. If nothing else, at least to calm the situation a bit. Because tension was, on the increase. Now, you see, people are talking about who to blame and who not to blame. And I say, well, we have a governor who is the chief security officer of the state. And then, unfortunately, in playing the politics, there were times he made some statements. In fact, I think that it's not even up to 2 weeks. You should have that video where he said that the youth shouldn't bother. When the time comes, he will lead them and direct them on what to do. And that's like, okay, if the assembly is threatening to impeach me, this is what it is. So the moment the assembly filed that notice of gross misconduct, the next day we began to hear of pipeline vandalization. And of course, like they normally say, when the witch cried in the night and the child dies in the morning, who is responsible for the death of the child? I'm not saying he may have sent people, but you know that the people we are talking about, these youth, this restive youth we are talking about, are people that are just waiting for something, a statement. It will trigger them to begin to act. Don't forget that even pipeline vandalization, there are those who are doing it for their bunkering business. So it's also an opportunity to catch into the moment and then see what they can get out of it. So as far as I'm concerned, the president, maybe he acted too hastily, but it was to save the situation.
Okay, let me quickly chip this in. State of emergency is not an end in itself. It's just a process.
At all.
Now, the first 6 months, after 6 months, for instance, if the president decides to return the governor and the House of Assembly, and this problem is not solved, we're back to square one.
That's right.
So what are those things you expect that this period should begin to take place? What kind of conversation should we begin to have?
As far as I'm concerned, there's nothing much anybody can do aside the fact that the two groups need to sit on the table. They need to come together. I've always said that reconciliation is the only way. All my media rounds, that's all I've always preached. Unfortunately, some of the people who are crying foul now, who are trying to blame the president, were the same people who asked Fubara not to stick to the peace pact after he had signed. The young man wanted to do that. But by the time he returned to Port Harcourt, they began to say, no, it's unconstitutional. We have the records, it's everywhere, YouTube, you see the statements. And then today they are blaming the president. So for me, it is a time, this 6 months is going to be a healing period. It's a time for real truth. And of course, truth will come with terms and conditions. You know what I mean in politics. You know, before they came together to give, you are going to run for this and that, there were terms and conditions, not what people, basically like what people think about sharing of money or not. No, we are going to do this, we are going to do this project, we are going to do that, you know. So this is a time for them to really find a way to seek how to come together. Now, let me tell you, let me shock you. The assembly, somebody said the governor is the worst hit. And I said, no. The state assembly, the lawmakers have not had their salaries for 1 year, 7 months. The governor refused to pay, no allocation to them. The council chairmen who were removed, their tenure expired before, 4 months to their tenure elapsed, their salaries were, their allocations were also seized. The state assembly was brought down. Over what? These are the issues. And we are saying, oh, we shouldn't, they should talk. They must sit down on the table and talk. And then whatever is supposed to get to anybody, the constituents where these people come from, they are also not missing. You are even talking about budget presentation. Who prepared the budget in the first place? You cannot prepare budget without the 27 constituencies, where these lawmakers come from, making inputs. They have to be part of that budget. So who made inputs on their behalf? So these are the issues. So if they are going to use these 6 months to find a way to reconcile and agree, and then, of course, tell themselves the truth, this is the area we have heard, I think we will make, if they refuse to do so, well, another 6 months of the emergency rule will stay.
Well, criticisms have continued to trail President Tinubu's decision. You also highlighted that some people might view it as being too hasty, but it's needed. And some people say that he should have allowed the Supreme Court judgment take its course. Do you think that is an avenue the president should have also considered?
When they went to meet with the president, the PANDEF, the stakeholders and all that, the last meeting they had, I think that's about a week ago or some days back, the president was clear. Let the rule of law prevail. Please go back home, you elders. Go and help the governor to implement the Supreme Court judgment. That judgment was total, comprehensive. There was nothing in that. In fact, let me tell you the truth. There's nothing the Supreme Court said that was different from what the High Court had said on January 23rd, 2024, of which, if the governor had taken the position of the High Court judgment of Justice Kayode Omotosho, wouldn't have been here by now. But I think because we like to play politics over and above even governance, so he was listening to some persons who had their own vested interest in the crisis. So he refused to, abide by that. So when the president said, go and help him, we thought that coming back home, at least we would have heard that there's a meeting for the governor, between the governor and the elders. Rather, what we heard is, I'm going to wait for the CTC of the Supreme Court judgment. You had your lawyers present in court. What was the CTC say different from what the lawyers heard the judges say? So I think it was just gimmicks, And of course, unfortunately, there's always a time when you come to your wit's end, So the Supreme Court made it clear there was no seriousness in implementing that judgment. Somebody said that he went to the assembly to present the budget. For crying out loud, everybody knows that's not the procedure. That's not protocol. You don't just appear before the assembly quarters and then say, nobody to open the gate for me. No, you don't do that. And then the next few minutes, we saw you in Bori commissioning projects, which means that particular day, what you had listed on your protocol list was to the commissioning of the district. So what you had at the assembly was just drama, content. And then look at where it has ended everybody. So there was, for me, he should have followed that Supreme Court judge. You don't defy court orders. He was persistently, consistently doing that from the High Court to the Appeal Court to the Supreme Court. Nobody does that.
All right, we'll come back to you, but let's talk to Madam Ankyo Briggs. Last year, you stated that Governor Fubara was 100% right in saying that the former lawmakers are not recognized by law, but rather by unconstitutional and risky solutions imposed by President Bola Tinubu on the people and government of Rivers State, which perpetuates the political oppression of the majority by a few individuals. Do you still agree that statements like this contributed to escalating the conflict in Rivers State?
First of all, let me say that since you've decided to drag us back to last year, you must allow me to answer from last year.
Go ahead.
And make my input in what is happening presently. Now, the first time interaction with the president, those two pieces of paper, they are in the present of what was there.
All right, Madam Ankyo Briggs, we'll come back to you, but let's take this quick commercial break. We'll be right back. Stay with us. We're glad to have you back. If you're just joining us, you're still watching TVC Breakfast, and we're live from our Abuja studio. We're still talking about the recent decision of the president to declare a state of emergency in Rivers State, and we have dissecting this issue two beautiful ladies with us on the program. Now, Madam Briggs, I don't know if you can hear me. Can you continue from where you left off before we went on the break? All right, let's come to you, Madam Obi. It's surprising that some members of PANDEF that criticized President Tinubu earlier's intervention even pressured Governor Fubara into rejecting the peace deal brokered, later made moves to get President Tinubu to intervene again. What difference did you expect after President Tinubu earlier's intervention was ignored?
Well, it's also good that the media was also watching. Because as far as I'm concerned, that movement was a belated one, in the sense that they first criticized, the president for intervening. It was obvious, it was very clear. They were loud and clear about it, that it was unconstitutional. And they asked the governor to go ahead and do what he wanted to do, that he didn't need that. And of course, the governor continued running the government without an assembly of 3 people, or is it 4 people? I don't know. Where does that happen? So the second movement, actually, like I said, I was thinking that all they needed to do was to, thank the president for his intervention the first time, not to go and seek for another intervention. What would the president have done outside insisting that the rule of law prevailed? There was nothing the president could have done, and that's why those that said the president should intervene, now he has intervened. So I don't see the reason why anybody's complaining. They insisted he should do something after the Supreme Court had spoken. So he had done that with his executive powers, to suspend democratic governance in the state for now, for 6 months, to see if sanity will return and wisdom will prevail. So I think that the elders, I don't know, I don't want to use any derogatory words, but unfortunately they were not being fair to even the governor, because if they actually wanted him to do well, they would have allowed him to stick to the letters of the peace deal. So.
Now the sole administrator is in charge of Rivers State for the next 6 months. What are those immediate steps you will expect him to do? Because the state of emergency, the whole idea is to achieve peace at the end of the day. So what are those steps?
Well, I don't know what the administrator will be doing, because he's, I think he's a retired military officer anyway. I don't know what he will be doing.
He's governing the states.
In terms of peace, he will ensure that, this madness stops. The bombings, the installation, vandalization of pipelines and all that. But again, I also think that he has a responsibility to ensure that the warring factions, the people involved, will have to stick together. Even if he can mediate, that's still a good one. That would be part of his responsibility. Yes, that would be a plus for him, to be able to bring both sides. But again, that's like bringing a stranger one more time, to get the job done. And that's something that, the people of Rivers State, the elders could have done themselves. Yeah,
you said bringing a stranger. That was what I said earlier. Both sides.
Yes.
On both sides, elders, religious, traditional rulers, people say they have taken sides. But, whether on the sides of Wike or the sides of the government. So probably you don't need a stranger like that.
But can I also ask you a question? What did you even expect the elders and the people to do? You have a governor who says he has the red pen. He's the chief security officer of the state. He's the one that decides. He's the one that decides who he recognizes as lawmakers and those he doesn't recognize. So everything, the buck stops on his table. He was the one who would have been able to say, I'm going to stick to this thing. I don't want this drama. I don't need all this advice. Because there were a lot of people, I don't want to call names, who were only there to make sure that he failed. People had ambitions. There are some who wanted to be governor like him. And they were just around him. And I can tell you, it was in their own interest that the governor failed. And I can tell you very well that if this state of emergency is sustained going towards the election year, it may be over for him, and then this other ones will have a
It's over 2 years to the election.
No. Election starts a year before. That's when the campaigns and all the meetings, alignments and realignments actually start. So that's just the truth of the matter. So I think the administrator will, number one, ensure that there's, first of all, calm, relative peace. Everybody will realize now that it's not business as usual. If you misbehave and you're caught up, you know what that means. No politician is going to save you. Then secondly, he should be able to see how he can bring them. He's a Niger Delta anyway, so he's not actually a total stranger. So he can actually bring them together and see where, and then speak truth to power. People should be told the truth to their face. Whoever has gone wrong, whoever has done something that shouldn't be, should be told the truth. And that's the only way.
I like where you took the conversation. What will you think? What do you think about the comments made by Nyesom Wike, who is also considered as a factor in this conflict? Should he also be suspended and from the federal cabinet and as part of efforts to reach peace?
Well, that's the other side of the story, because you as a governor, you have immunity, quite all right. But you also do not fail to understand that the president can invoke the sections of the law to set you aside for a while. That's because your primary responsibility is to maintain peace and order in the state, save lives and properties. That's number one. And then you go on with development and all. You can't be talking about building roads or bridges when there's no peace and order. Okay, that's one. Now, Nyesom Wike is a minister, and minister of the Federal Capital Territory. Recently, he was also given the award as the best minister. People are testifying. I came into Abuja after some months, and I was unable to drive through some of the roads because there were new connections and all that. So the question is, has he failed in his primary responsibility in developing the FCT as demanded by the federal government, by the man who appointed him?
I think the question is his role in the crisis in Rivers State.
I'm coming. Has he failed in that? And in any case, you are talking about Nyesom Wike. The 27 lawmakers, you people call them the pro-Wike lawmakers. They are also sacked. Have you also imagined that for the 1 year, 7 months they were not receiving salaries, that somebody probably was responsible for their upkeep? Have you imagined that? So I think that when we blame Wike, we should also look at the other side of the story. And then you're talking about sacking him. He's doing his, if he fails in his job, in his duty as FCT minister, of course he will be eased of. There are ministers that have been sacked for failing to meet up with their responsibilities on this part of the state, except when this administrator comes in and he tries to bring them together, and then for peace, for them to have a round table, and maybe he continues to insist on something that may not be realistic, then that's when you can report back to the president.
Okay, let me put it this way.
Okay.
To achieve peace, you will need to bring both parties together.
Yeah, sure.
The governor, the lawmakers.
Yeah.
But do you think you can achieve peace if you bring the governor, the lawmakers, and you don't bring in Wike? Which means it's a critical...
It's not even only Wike. When you talk about Wike, that's just one out of the stakeholders. On the side of the governor, there are other major stakeholders. We had some former governors from Rufus Ada George, Peter Odili, to an extent, Rotimi Amechi. They are all on the side of the governor. So what are we saying? So when you talk about the lawmakers, that's one person, Wike. So if you're going to make peace, you're going to bring all of them together. It's not just about it. Even Omeya, who was also a governor for some months, is also on the side of Wike. There are other stakeholders too, who are, on the side of the governor. So if you're going to make, bring them together, you also have to bring these people, because it's probably because some of them are the ones giving the governor that impression that he can just do anything and nothing will happen.
Okay,
we'll still come back to you.
Okay.
But Madam Briggs, I hear that you're with us now. You were talking about your comments that you made last year before we lost connection with you. Can you continue and finish up on that before we move to another question?
The truth of the matter is that immediately this thing started, we waded into it, both to the governor and the minister of the FCT at the beginning of it. And nobody responded to us. Now, there are two sets of elders that it must be made very clear. We have elders that are PDP members that are elders of PDP, I don't understand, Rivers people actually don't understand how we can find ourselves in a situation where a former governor who is a minister has half of PDP supporting him in the governance of Rivers State. And then we have the people of Rivers State who voted for the governor of Rivers State, who are in support of the governor of Rivers State. It is being accepted in Nigeria today that there are actually two governors in Rivers State. And the president is acting as if he's mediating between two governors of a state. The president of Nigeria is expecting Rivers people and the governor of Rivers State to accept what he did not accept from Olusegun Obasanjo in his time when he was governor. We find ourselves in a situation where we are not allowed to benefit from the governance of the governor that is on seat. All the people who were in the assembly, all 27 of them, obviously, before they decided to cross over to APC, were definitely not with the governor. The governor did not choose the commissioners that he started with. So the issue of Rivers State is unbearable, is unacceptable, and is unbelievable. And it did not start with Similaye Fubara. It started
so you're still insisting, are you still insisting,
of the Federal Capital
Territory. Are you still insisting
now
that President Tinubu did not show neutrality in his decision?
He did not. He absolutely, even up till now, I will even forget before this time. I'm telling you now, because I was among the PANDEF delegates that went to see President Tinubu on the 11th of this month, last Tuesday. I was amongst them. Now, I can tell you that we were treated with disdain and disrespect by the president. We were kept waiting for over 1.5 hours. Now, the president will not do that. He has never been known to do that to any other group of people. I don't see why you're looking towards your other lady in the... Anyway, look, I'm from Rivers, so you must understand the way that I feel about this. Because we are the ones that are suffering.
Madam Briggs, let me just chip this in.
From what is going on. We have a minister. We have a minister that is a PDP minister that is playing to the drums of an APC government. How does that affect?
Madam Briggs, just listen to me on this. Now, the president's intervention, the state of emergency yesterday, some persons have said it saved Rivers State from a crisis. The crisis was that the governor was on the path of being impeached. Now, if he was impeached, if that process had gone on and he was impeached, it would have been a different thing. So the state of emergency, he's still the governor. After the state of emergency, he's still the governor. Don't you think it's a saving, like an alternative way to preserve this governor that the president did yesterday?
Oh. Let me tell you something.
Okay.
Someone, a supporter of Nyesom Wike, told me about a couple of weeks ago, the governor remains the governor of Rivers State. I didn't understand what it meant. But after what you've just said now, and after what the president did last night, that very statement has become very clear to me. Oh, they're going to remove the governor. They're going to put him on suspension. They're not going to impeach him because then he still remains the governor. But do you understand the trauma the people of Rivers State are going through by the decision that a lot of lawyers are saying that are unconstitutional, that is unconstitutional, that the president should not have arbitrarily like that just suspended the governor, his deputy, and the the lawmakers that the court have now said are lawmakers even before the judgment that is on ground, that have not determined whether they are lawmakers based on the fact that they crossed over to another party. Why
but
do
Madam
we
Briggs,
want Rivers people
Madam Briggs, we have
to
seen the
forget
president
all of these
on
things?
several
Why?
occasions. If you can hear me, we've seen the president on several occasions tell Governor Fubara to stoop to conquer. It appears that the governor has also not been sincere to Pandef and other group. He did not tell you the real efforts made by President Tinubu in intervening in this conflict.
Why would you say that? How did you come to that conclusion? If you remember, I don't know whether you do, but this is a governor that has said that not only had he stooped to conquer, that he had knelt down to a minister just so that there can be peace in Rivers State. Is that not stooping to conquer? Now, here we have a governor who we were told to go back last Tuesday and tell to obey the rule of order, the order of the court. He had already started obeying it before we even went to see the president. He had already started. And immediately that court order, that court judgment came on Friday, 2 weeks before the meeting. He called off the local government chairman and handed over to somebody else. He stepped them down. That's one. The second thing he did that the Supreme Court had said he should do, he was in the process of doing these things when now this order of him being suspended has come to pass. So I don't get where the impression is gotten that he did not obey the rule of order. He said he was obeying it. There are some of us who felt that the judgment was not fair, but yet in support of the governor and for peace to reign in our state, we are encouraging him up till this morning, up till yesterday, encouraging him to go ahead and continue. Now, people are arguing,
Madam Ankyo Briggs.
If you had
Madam Ankyo Briggs, I'm afraid that's where we have to leave the conversation because of our time. We've run out of time, unfortunately, but we must thank you so much for your contributions on the program this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Madam Obi Undukwe, we also thank you for your contributions with us this morning. It was quite, insightful, and we appreciate your contribution.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, that's our package.